the day after we arrived here, it was like, oh, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to get up and do anything. So for one day, I just did nothing, and then
Absolutely.
the next day we had to go get food.
Yeah. Yeah, one has to eat, and at least you discovered all these beautiful foods that taste so fresh and delicious. And
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. We're drinking baobab juice, okay? And baobab is a superfood, okay? And it's a local tree here that I want to incorporate into my off-grid lifestyle, because apparently it's really good at fixing nitrogen into the soil.
oh,
But so people put it in smoothier, you can, they have water and whatnot. So that is something that's certainly having a healing effect on us as well, which is wonderful. Yeah, okay, I'm looking for, because the baobab trees, they just hold huge amounts of here. They're not very pretty trees. In Madagascar, they're far more, I don't know, because they're tall, and then the leaves look like it's the roots. It's kind of very neat and tidy. Here, the bulbs are not neat and tidy, but they're huge, absolutely huge. And I think leaves 2 weeks in the year, because they're conserving. That's it for leaves. So
wow.
really interesting.
And so are you discovering, you described the country as beautiful in terms of the people and the nature of the people and what you're discovering in that sense. Is it beautiful
Yeah.
to look at? You know, even though that particular tree is not attractive, I get the impression there's so much nature. It's beautiful. Is that the case of where you're living, or where you're planning to live when you're off grid?
Yes, in my opinion. Yeah. In my opinion, it is a very beautiful country, and I think that's one of the things Westerners don't tend to understand, is just how beautiful Africa is. Okay, and the Zimbabwe's Harare is quite high. It's about 90 meters above sea level, so the temperatures here tend not to vary too much, sort of from 10 to maybe 30 degrees. In above 30 degrees 1 or 2 days here and there, but the temperatures are pretty steady. In the dry season goes down to 10, and the wet season, the build-up season, maybe 30, 35 for a couple of days. Okay, rain is plentiful. Okay, I was shocked, I think, as a child, to learn that Zimbabwe has as much rain as Britain, and
It
yet
has
it's
as
got a
much rain.
completely countryside. I believe so. Yeah, and certainly if on the eastern border, you've got 3 ranges, okay, and there it rains all year, and it's much cooler. Okay, that's the border with Mozambique. And so that's ultimately where I want to sort of set up my home, is in the Eastern Highlands. Acres cooler than Harare, but Harare is not that. The heat is different. It's a dry heat, whereas I find in Europe it's a very humid, and cities, and I don't like that kind of heat. But here it's dry, so clothes dry very quickly, and space. Everybody has space. There's space. So I can't remember what your question was, but I think the landscape, the mountain ranges. If you go down to Mozambique, I can remember as a child, we went to a place called Tofo Beach, Tofo, and we used to run on the beach in the morning. The sand used to squeak under our feet, and there was one beach where it was in shells, just beautiful shells, And of course, you've got the coconuts there, and the coconuts all grow there. And here you've got down in the low veld, what they call the sort of part of Zimbabwe, you'll have more farming, and you've got huge ranches, because it's much drier there. Here you've got orange groves up in Harare, the orange groves up, it's called Mazoe. But as I say, everything grows, okra, you think of watermelons, pawpaws, the list just goes on. I mean, what doesn't? Yeah, and then the flowers, the strelitzias, okay, they're a dime a dozen. The flame lilies is the national flower of Zimbabwe. Okay. I can remember the garden back home. I'm here. I haven't seen the house that I grew up in because it's down a driveway I can't see. But my mother had a whole bed of, she loved her petunias and foxgloves. And you have here, what do they have? You have them in Asia as well. They're beautiful frangipani trees, okay, with the most incredible scents. Gladi, incredible scents. So jasmine, honeysuckle. You can go on and on and on, and then the local trees, the fruit here that's not really known in the West. You can grow rice here, I've discovered. It's a local grain of rice. Soya grows incredibly well here. Chickpeas, you go to there's a what you call a precinct, and in one of the suburbs, I'm in the northern suburbs of Harare, and what's beautiful now, which I was told was going extinct, are cycads, which is an ancient type of fern. Okay, and when I was told they were becoming extinct, now they're everywhere. Everybody made a determination to grow them. Now I'm a dozen cycads are everywhere. And just incredible beauty if you want to be a god, So yeah. I mean, the mountains, the rivers, the waterfalls, because of course Victoria Falls here, which is on the border with Zambia, and of course you've got the lake, the Manic, that was made in the early 60s, which hydroelectric power to Zambia and Zimbabwe. It's kind of a holiday resort for folks, Kariba, the islands that people can go to. And then, of course, you've got parks near Victoria Falls and down sort of the very driest part, Gonareju, where you see all sorts of wildlife, just free, So yeah, there's plenty to see and do. And of course, ruins, which people have kind of missed from the West, but the Zimbabwe has been hypothesized as being the homestead of one of the gods Enki. So that's very interesting, because you've got really ancient history. People have sort of, remember, people said, oh, nobody knew who the civilization they discovered. And now people are saying, well, actually, if you look at the tablets, that looks like it could be Enki homestead, Great Zimbabwe, that nobody's been able to say what, So I think that's coming more and more to be important, is to understand precisely the extent of the history in Africa that has kind of been pushed aside. So there's lots to see and do, so much. The markets I'm going to, the artisans, they're making their own soaps, their own spoons, their own fudge, their own shoes, their own creams, their ornaments, their own household, okay, furniture. And these are just iron shops in markets, where you could spend a fortune, small fortune.